There are a few things in landscape photography more exciting than chasing a lightning storm. We've got a lightning storm rolling in. Currently I'm ahead of the cell and it's coming towards me. Right now I'm using this old grain elevator as kind of a subject for the shot, hoping that I'll get some lightning strikes in the sky above it. Let's see what happens. One of the challenges of this kind of photography is dealing with the weather, obviously, but it's often raining during lightning storms like this. And trying to keep your front element clean is a constant challenge because obviously it can totally ruin a shot. Oh man, I know we got that one. It's getting wet. It's getting close. Hail! Oh God! Lots and lots of hail! Oh! That was a big one! Oh! Abandoned ship! Oh! Whew. It's getting big! The hail is very, very large. Very large indeed. Oh, we gotta get in the car. Oh, ouch. Oh. Oh. And then just like that, it quits. So the trick to this is that you have to be in a decent place and you have to be pointed the right direction and you have to move with the storm. So right now my composition is no longer a good one because all the lightning is happening in a different direction. So we're gonna have to move with the storm and try to chase it to somewhere where we can actually photograph it. Whew, we got dumped on. That was a lot of hail.
You can call me stupid. You can call me cheap. Say I'm lazy, you can say I'm weak. You think that using her will get to me, and if you're right then you're in trouble.
Photographing lightning storms is exciting, it's dangerous, and it's difficult. It's really hard. The storm is pretty much petered out and it was very short-lived. I did get a couple frames, I think, but I wanted to give you guys some tips as far as like the settings and just how to shoot it in general. So tip number one is you want to shoot a lightning storm from the outside, you know, a couple miles away, and use a longer focal length and kind of zoom in on it. That way, for one, you don't get killed, and for two, it makes it a lot easier because you're not struggling with all of the rain and the hail that a lot of times is inside these lightning storms. Plus, by shooting from the outside looking in, one of the benefits is that you get to see all that really cool cloud structure. The cloud structure that lightning storms come from are some of the most dramatic and cool cloud structures that you're ever going to photograph. A lot of times there's what they call mammatus clouds, or which are kind of like the bubble clouds. Really cool stuff. So shoot it from the outside looking in. You want to have a decent weather app to be tracing and tracking the storm with. A lot of times I just use WeatherBug, which has a storm tracker feature, but you can also use apps like Storm or windy or anything where you can see the storm cell, see what direction it's moving in. And that way you can kind of pre-visualize where you need to be to either wait for it or you need to be back behind the storm kind of chasing it. Settings wise, it kind of varies because before the sun goes down, the hardest part is having the shutter speed long enough to where you can actually catch a bolt. You know, it's happens in the instant of a flash, like a flash duration. It's very fast. So a longer shutter speed is going to be a benefit. Once the sun goes down, it's not so hard because the ambient light drops and you're using longer shutter speeds. It's much easier to get a frame. But before the sun goes down, using the 3-stop ND filter can be really useful because you can use a slightly longer shutter speed to catch a bolt. Back there, I was using ISO 50, I believe f16, and like a shutter speed of 4 seconds. Because the storm clouds are so dark, the ambient light got really dim even though it wasn't quite sunset yet. And then I was using the built-in intervalometer to trigger the camera over and over and over every time it was available to. That way I didn't have to sit there and keep hitting the shutter button. Intervalometers are a great tool for photographing lightning because before the sun goes down, you can use it as an intervalometer and, you know, take a bunch of frames until you get one to increase the odds. Then once it gets dark, one of the ways I like to use the intervalometer is I will actually just, you know, put it in bulb mode, hold down the shutter button until I get a strike, and then I let go and start a new frame. And that works because it's dark, the ambient light isn't going to build up and get really bright on you. And because a lightning strike is very quick, it's kind of like flash photography in a way. It freezes everything and you're not going to get any weird artifacts from a longer shutter speed. Obviously, you don't want to get too long with your shutter speed, otherwise you'll be adding some noise and hot pixels. But generally speaking, bulb mode is a pretty cool way to go. Also, I highly recommend using a rain cover. I didn't have mine because, well, I left the house in a big hurry because I didn't know that the storm was coming. So I left the house in a hurry, didn't have one. So a rain cover is going to help because you're going to be out in the elements big time. Some of these storms pack a ton of rain and hail and all kinds of stuff. Also, because you're shooting in the rain, I love to get the Kimtech scientific lens wipes. I'll put a link in the description below. What's nice about them is they're super absorbent, way more absorbent than a lens cloth. That way when your front element gets wet, you can just quickly wipe it off, and it helps a lot for keeping your front element dry and not just pushing the water around. When a lens cloth gets saturated, you're just pushing that moisture around. These will actually absorb that water, and it's really useful. So I'll put links to some of the stuff I've mentioned in the description below. If you do photograph lightning, be careful. Again, you know, this is a dangerous thing. I don't want anybody getting hurt because Nick Page does it. But yeah, here's the photos that we got. Thank you guys so much, and happy storm hunting. I love photographing lightning storms. Just be careful.